In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Amen. Okay, so the purpose of this talk, it's going to be very short and sweet. It's going to be mainly logistical and practical with, basically you guys heard from Father Andrew, the creed, right? The beliefs of the faith. Right now I'm going to show you how to apply that to whether you're teaching middle schoolers, high schoolers, First Communion, Catechism, whatever it is, okay? Because with everything Father Andrew said, it doesn't really make sense if we don't understand how to apply it in that sense, okay? And the way I thought about structuring this talk is from a verse in Isaiah, okay? So if you want to, for those listening or anyone here, you can open up to Isaiah 42, okay? It says, "Behold my servant who I uphold, my chosen, in whom my soul delights. I have put my spirit upon him. He will bring forth justice to the nations." Okay, so let me stop there and I'll continue later on. Okay, so first things first, servitude. We're here to become servants, okay? And here in Isaiah, the Lord is talking about my servant, his servant. Who is his servant? Obviously, he's referring to the anointed one who is to come, Christ, right? And we all, I hope, try our best to imitate Christ in everything we do. We should, because through baptism, we have been clothed with Christ, right? So, in everything we do, in everything we see Christ do, we apply it to ourselves. So, what does it mean to be a servant? Okay, everyone here, you guys all chose, maybe you guys have been doing this for a while, maybe it's your first time, maybe something just sort of touched you, something happened in your life where you said, I want to give back to the church. It's a beautiful thing, it's an honorable thing, and I, wish more people could do that, okay? But with that being said, what you chose to do to help the church with leading and helping the church go forward in holiness is, it comes with the title servant. And that means that you are here to serve the people of the church. I don't know if you guys know this, but you guys know what the Pope, any Pope, signs his name with, right? The servant of servants. So right now when Pope Francis, he writes any encyclical, any pontifical document, it's always Pope Francis, the servant of servants. So we're here to serve, okay? Just like we see in Jesus' ministry, he came to serve also. But with service comes a responsibility, right? And that responsibility needs to be, paid. We need to pay very close attention to that responsibility, because it's very easy to get comfortable with, especially if you've been teaching or leading for a long time, it's very easy to get comfortable with the way you've been doing it in the past. Maybe, you've gone through different priests that you've worked with, different administrations, so on and so forth. But I'm here to show you what it's going to be like now and what it's going to look like now. Okay, and this obviously is applied to our entire diocese of St. Peter, the Apostle. Okay, so this responsibility first comes with having a good prayer life. Okay, this isn't a job, right? We're servants, we're here to serve, we're here to help the priest, whichever parish you're serving at, you're here to help the priest and ultimately help the souls of any of those children that you're dealing with, okay? But you can't really do that in an efficient way if you're sort of lousy with your prayer life, because the devil doesn't want us to be here. He doesn't want us to be talking about how to lead the right way. He doesn't want leaders in the church. He wants all of these kids to sort of stray off. So that means we're up against that, which means it would only make rational sense for us to make sure we have a solid prayer life. Okay, if you don't now, start somewhere. Okay, you just heard from Father Andrew. He gave pretty good tips on how to do that. So try to apply that. Okay, and it goes without saying. So that's one thing. The prayer life is one thing, but also living the Catholic faith according to the commandments of God is a requirement, and no one can lead any middle schoolers, any high schoolers teaching First Communion, teaching Catechism, if you don't even go to Sunday Mass, okay? So that's like, things like that are very obvious. So that's an obvious requirement. Going to Sunday Mass, going to confession at least once a year, like the Catechism says. All of these different requirements, making sure you're abiding by all of these 10 commandments, because we can't have us looking like hypocrites, right? If we're, preaching about God on Friday, right? And not even going to Mass on Sunday. And we only leave that time for volunteering for one day. It doesn't work that way, okay? And this is the sort of same thing that we learned in seminary. I know you guys are not becoming priests or nuns, but so it's not like I'm no longer Father Dany after my last Sunday Mass on Sunday, okay? I'm always a priest. I'll always be a priest. In everything I do, I'm a priest. And people are going to know you guys are leaders. People are going to know you guys are teachers. They're going to know you have some sort of involvement in the church, okay? Which means everything you do in every aspect, that needs to be considered, okay? If it's your first time leading, you're going to get used to it and you're going to realize that. And if you think no one knows you're a leader, you'd be surprised, okay? And the reason why I say this is because you need to make sure you act like a leader in everything you do. The places you go to, okay? The things you talk about around people, the way you act on social media, the things you post on social media, anything of that sort of in that nature, okay? You need to consider all of those things because especially being in the Chaldean church, we're very tight-knit, right? So everyone knows everyone and everything always gets back to the priest, okay? So always remember that, please. And you also don't want to be the reason for scandal for anyone because when you're out and people know who you are, you're representing your families, you're representing the group you teach in, you're representing the priest in which parish you're teaching in, and you're ultimately representing the church. And everything you say and do at that moment, especially if someone's like very vulnerable in their spirituality, you're gonna give them the wrong impression, or hopefully a good impression, right? And that happens a lot. And just make sure you guys take that very seriously in your day-to-day lives, okay? And another thing that that I want to make sure I cover is church teaching. So Father Andrew gave you guys a creed, right? The belief of the church. But there may be some things that you guys may disagree with. Maybe you may, not fully understand. And it's okay, just as long as you ask questions and you get the answers, because it would be, very problematic for you to be, in a small group or teaching a First Communion class and you say something contrary to church teaching. We cannot have that, okay? And I've seen that happen in my experience where, even the, middle school kids would come up to me and tell me, so-and-so said this, what do you think? And it was, something completely contrary to the church. And if that kid never came and told me, I would have never known that leader said that. And I would have never been able to clarify that teaching. And that kid probably would have lived years and years and years thinking that thing that supposedly the church taught. So be very careful of that. That's why it's a very wise thing to say if you don't know the answers to something. I don't know, I'll check, okay? Another thing is that you guys in whichever group or whichever area you're teaching, you may come across some problems, okay? Just remember, we can't, as priests and whoever the administration is in your parish, we cannot read your minds, okay? We don't know if there is something wrong. Or maybe we can if it's obvious, but we can't always read your mind. So if there's a problem, you're having a problem with a student, a problem with another leader, a problem with whoever, go and tell them, okay? Go and tell the priest and you could resolve that. Because the reason why I say that is because if you don't and you keep this, irritation, this anger inside, who loses? The people you're teaching, they lose, the kids, okay? And the entire purpose of becoming servants is to make sure, we're there to help in any way we can to nourish the souls of whoever's in front of us, okay? And like I said, it's a big responsibility. So we need to make sure we have all of these things in check, okay? Also, this is mainly for the ladies who are going to be teaching and leading in our groups, okay? You must dress modestly, okay? Dressing modestly, that's not just a church thing. You should always dress modestly, okay? And that is because, obviously, the way God designed human beings, okay, especially women, he designed them in a way to, constantly respect themselves and allow themselves to be conservative in that way, to not sort of go with the way the world is moving now. Because now the world is in a sort of polar opposite sense, where the more you show, the more beautiful you are, which is, that's completely wrong, okay? And I'll go into depth with anyone if you guys want to have a discussion with me about this, but I just want to, make sure I say that, to make sure you show up to your groups. Everyone show up to your groups, dress very modestly, and respectful of yourself, okay? Okay, the next thing I want to move to is, and I think Noor, he's going to talk about this some more, but I'm just going to sort of give you the surface, is how to deal with these minors, okay? Because it's very easy, like I said, we're Chaldeans, we're very tight-knit, and it's almost like we're all family, right? So we could sometimes maybe lose focus on how to properly act with these minors. Okay, first and foremost, you can never give a ride to a minor, okay? That's, that goes without saying, okay? Number two, never be alone with any student by yourself, okay? If you're having a problem with a student, have another teacher with you, have someone else with you, okay? Never be alone with them. And that is for your sake, for my sake, for the church's sake, for everyone's sake, because we want to make sure we be as careful as possible with these things. These are very sensitive things that can get misconstrued, that can just be very, very problematic for everyone in that case, okay? And also, I know we're living in a big time of social media, okay? Your kids are going to find you on social media whether you like it or not, okay? They're going to find your Snapchat, they're going to find your Instagram, they're going to, I don't know, they don't have Facebook, but they're going to find your Twitter, so on and so forth, okay? And they're probably going to want to message you on there, okay? You cannot privately message a minor either, okay? Not on social media, not on Snapchat, not on text message, okay? These things are very inappropriate because most of the time they're just doing this on their own, okay, without their parents knowing. If for any reason they need to call you, they need to do it through their parents. So their parents are well aware that you are talking to them for whatever reason, if it's important, okay? And I know some of you, obviously a lot of you actually, I know you build very good relationships with those students, and you should do that. I encourage everyone to do that because, for example, I've noticed, all these years that some students are maybe more open to talking to one leader than the other, and so on and so forth, because they're probably in your small group, you've probably been their first communion teacher, whatever the case may be. And they might want to open up to you about, something where they trust you and they respect you and, they want your help, but make sure you do it in the proper manner, okay? For example, if there is something extremely problematic that you notice about a kid, okay, you go straight to the priest. You make sure the priest is well aware of whichever parish you are that this is a case, and we need to make sure we need to know how to deal with this. Okay. And if you're confused about any of this, just make sure you talk to your priest. Okay, to make sure all of this is clarified for you, because the way we interact with the students, okay, it's very, very important. It's a very, very sensitive topic, and we need to do it in the proper manner, okay? According to, obviously, all the guidelines of our diocese, okay? Another thing I want to mention is the way you communicate with parents, okay? Because the parents are going to ask you questions about their kids, okay? It's inevitable. It always happens, okay? And you need to make sure you know how to speak with parents, especially Chaldean parents. It's a very unique way of speaking, okay? And, if they're mad, if they're happy, so on and so forth, you need to make sure you always keep your cool, okay? That's my first piece of advice. Just keep your cool. If the parents flipping out about something, whatever it may be, it's probably not even your fault. They're probably just mad at their kids, but you need to make sure you just keep it cool, calm, collective, okay? and you deal with it in the right manner, okay? And make sure you do have a good relationship with the parents, because they're really gonna trust you and they're gonna like that you're there, teaching their kids and you're helping out at the church. And you'd be surprised. A lot of people have great respect for leaders and teachers of the church, okay? It's a beautiful thing, but also make sure that you're keeping the parents updated with their kids, okay? And another thing is everything you guys say in the room, okay? So everything you're teaching in that classroom, whether you're in a classroom, in small groups, one-on-one, they will go and tell their parents. Never forget that. The second they get in the car, when their parents come to pick them up, they're gonna say everything you just said, okay? And that's why I am, obviously, more importantly, for the sake of their souls, to make sure you're not saying anything contradicting church teaching, but to make sure you're also speaking in an appropriate manner with these kids, okay? Because anything aside from that, the parents will find out, and the parents, will ask us, what's up with this? Why is my kid being taught this? So on and so forth. You know how it is, I'm sure. Okay, so just be very careful on what you're saying, how you're acting, making sure you're presenting yourself in a very proper manner. Okay. Okay. I want to end with, God bless you. I want to end with the way this verse ends from Isaiah. So it says, he will not fail or be discouraged till he has established justice in the earth, and the coastlands wait for his law. Okay. Just remember that during this time of leading, God sees this. He sees our expectations much higher, okay? And God is with us during this time of leading and teaching. So make sure you're constantly reminded of that, because it does bring a lot of peace and comfort into your hearts. And it's actually very rewarding. You'd be surprised. So with anything you might be going through now, with any difficulties, any tribulations that you might be experiencing now, this time of teaching, the more seriously you take it, the more you allow God to sanctify, for yourself to be sanctified and to become more holy in that sense, okay? So it's a big reward. It's very rewarding to give your time and effort to teaching all of these kids, and it's a very honorable thing, because us priests, we see it. I'll speak for myself. I'm in this for life, right? And I expect other priests to be doing this because they're in this for life. But other people that are not priests, nuns, religious, so on and so forth, you don't have to be doing this, but you are and you want to. And there's only a handful of you that are chosen to do it. So just make sure you take advantage of this and understand how rewarding it can be. Okay. Also, does anyone have any questions before I wrap up, or no? Yeah. So for you guys that are listening, so she asked a good question about being private messaged about a family problem, right, on WhatsApp from a group chat, okay? And the answer to that is, so you shouldn't reply to that, okay? And I know, things in the past may have been very, very confusing, very blurry in that sense, but I'm telling you now that there is absolutely no private messaging with minors, okay? Because it's just a dangerous road to go down, okay? And if there are family problems, then you either make sure you wait until they come to the next meeting for whichever group they're in, or figure out how to reach their parents and go through that, okay? But you also want to make sure that you don't lose their trust, okay? Because the things they tell you, they expect you to keep to yourself. That's why they're telling you that, So you also need to be careful on how you deal with that, okay? Because you really don't want you don't want to lose that trust aspect, because then they're just going to shut you out completely. And typically, I've seen this a lot where, for example, no one at home is listening to them, and they see you as someone that has an ear for them to go to. So you also need to be very cautious of that, but never the private messaging. Yeah. And I know, sorry, one second. And I know it varies in different circumstances, so it could just be very complicated. So I think if that does happen, just ask me, ask the priest, whoever it is, and we could take it from there, because it could be very circumstantial in that sense. Yeah.